welcome to my kitchen. If you're watching the replay, welcome. Leave some questions and I'll come back and answer them. If you want, you can tag me. Just use the @ Kathy Hester, and then Facebook will pick that up and I will see your question, even if this is a very, very long time from today. So I'm going to give a few minutes for everything to kind of replicate out because I'm using Restream. But today we're going to make an Instant Pot bouillon. And I decided the Instant Pot has to cook some stuff, so why not make my dry bouillon as well? So you're going to get 2 bouillons for the price of 0. So I thought that's a pretty good holiday gift. And I see a few people are coming in, so say hi, tell me how the weather is where you are, how your day's been, how your week is. My week has been crazy. Busy, 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 busy. And you've probably seen me do a few different recipes where I've been using bouillon substitutes, right? And I got a request to, can I make the bouillon on a live? And I was like, yeah, and I need to make it anyhow. Hey, Apple, yay! You're here even earlier, so I'm glad. I never know right now because I'm just kind of trying to fit the lives into my daily / work life. It's a little uncertain when I'm gonna go live. Okay, hi, awesome, sunny and warm. It's sunny here and a little bit chilly, but not so chilly I have to wear a winter coat. Oh, Monique is from Michigan and it's gloomy. Sometimes I like it when it's cloudy, like cloudy and rainy. It just relaxes me. It just kind of takes my shoulders from being up here to just down a little bit. So if it's sunny for too long, it kind of makes me a little bit crazy. I lived in Phoenix, Arizona for a year, and I'm like, I just feel like it's trying to enforce me to be happy all the time. And I just need a little rain, a little cloudy. Hi, Deborah. And people who are Facebook users, and I'm sorry, if you want to put your name in little parentheses and say thing, if you're watching it in a group, I'm just not allowed to see your name through the way everything trickles down. But I would be happy to address you by name, and I'm very, very happy that you guys are here. Jackie's here, and Monique said not rainy, but snowy. And I think we're going to get snow for Christmas, they say. And so that could be, that's very exciting here. It's a real hit or miss thing in North Carolina where I live. And Diane said this is going to be a great item to keep in the freezer. Absolutely. And it's ridiculously cheap. So, and it's, if you don't have everything we're going to use, I have some substitute ideas too, and you can change it up. Oh, hi Marilyn, I see you now. And Jackie says it's partly cloudy, a little gloomy. Deborah says it's sunny in San Francisco. Oh, hi Karen, I haven't seen you in a while. I hope you're doing really well. Is in Boston, and yeah, you guys got hit with a lot of snow, right? Oh yay, Fiona from Australia. What time is it in Australia? I always get confused by, it's pretty much once you go past the UK, I'm confused. And I'm fairly confused with the UK as far as time zones go. And Gina made it too, yay! Yay, my YouTube troop is here. Okay, awesome, you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and start this because obviously it has to cook. And so what we've got here, I've got a little bit of water because I'm using the Instant Pot method is the one I'm showing you. And I put the recipe in the comment thing, depending on where you are, it is somewhere around here, okay? So there's also on healthyslowcooking.com, you can get how to do it in the slow cooker, how to do it in the oven, and how to do it on the stovetop. The ingredients are pretty much the same. The Instant Pot is the only one that absolutely requires water. So in a 6 quart, I'm going to use about a ½ cup. If you're doing an 8 quart, you might want to add a little more. If you have an Evo or an Ultra Instant Pot, they may run a little hot, which means they could get a burn notice. If you get burn notices a lot, go ahead and put some extra water in. I prefer to try and keep this bouillon as thick as possible to concentrate the flavors as much as possible, but you've got to do that within the parameters that you have available. So basically, there's my water because it won't come up to pressure without water. So that's just a pressure cooker thing. And at least in the method that we're doing, there's always exceptions to every rule, right? And Marilyn says it's cold in Louisiana. Hi, Valerie. Fiona says it's 8 a.m. You are starting your day. Congratulations. And Diane had the first rain in over 240 days. Wow. Okay, so this is 3 onions, and I just kind of chop them big, and then I just break them up a little bit. So one of the reasons you might want to make your own bouillon, there's a bazillion reasons to make it. A, it's cheap. B, it's easy. C, you can make it without any of the things that are not on your happy list for your diet, either because of allergies or because of not being SOS, maybe, right? Okay, so I'm just going to put those onions there. And you don't have to do this that much. I think I just like doing it. I think it's more of a requirement in the slow cooker. And then we've got about 5 or 6 carrots. I've just cut them up in big chunks. And then I have about 5 or 6 celery stems. And I wanted to make sure to tell you, if you have some nice looking leaves on there, just use those as well. And those are the main ingredients. And what we're going to do then, and this is the Duo Crisp air fryer that I demoed for you another time, and it has this guy, so I don't have to make sure it's sealing. It's just going to seal all on its own, and we're going to cook it for about 10 minutes. So I'm just going to go to pressure cook. We want it on high, and then this one has a start button. So if you get a new Instant Pot, find out if it has a start button. And I'm not going to keep this towards you because I know in the camera it flashes around really weird. Okay, so we'll get that going. And you know what? While I'm thinking about it, let me go ahead and turn the fan on, because when we open that, I'm going to want the fan on. So if you weren't using this in an Instant Pot, you're putting it on the stove or inside the oven in a Dutch oven, you could put a little bit of water on there or not. In the slow cooker, I typically don't use water, but if yours runs really, really hot, you still might want to go ahead and put a little water in there, because it could burn some of the things at the very bottom. Hi, Sue. Welcome. Yay, Joanne is here. I was thinking about Joanne when I decided to make the dry bouillon. So if you have the Ultimate Vegan Cookbook for your Instant Pot, the wet bouillon is in here. It's also on blogs. The dry bouillon is in gluten-free vegan cooking in your Instant Pot. And you can have both of these, and you could also be gluten-y and eat all the gluten you want. You'll still find lots of good things in here. Most of the things are whole foods anyhow, so it's just not that hard. But what we're going to make, because I like to have a bouillon in every cookbook, so sometimes I have to kind of fudge a little bit. So this is a very easy recipe, and kind of like yesterday's recipe, you could write it down too. So we're just going to get some ingredients to make a dry bouillon. And I'm going to look at it because I haven't made it in a little while. Awesome. Oh, Deborah says she has that book. Excellent. So you don't have to have this to make the dry bouillon. You could have a spice grinder. So like I have this little guy that I have I don't know where the other piece is. So you could have just a little spice grinder. I would show you in this, but right now I don't know where the outside piece is that makes it go. But this is fine. You don't have to have this one. Now, if you have a Ninja blender, and if you want, comment if you want me to put up the link that has this. Sometimes they have them and sometimes they don't. This is a spice grinder attachment for the Ninja. Oh, there we go. And what I like about it, and I'll show you a little bit too, is that you have the power of this blender behind it, and it's easy to clean, and it's just an attachment. And I find that oftentimes it will grind things a little bit finer. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. But I don't want you to see this and go, oh, I can't do this recipe because I don't have the thing Kathy's using. You could also put it like in a dry container for your Vitamix. You could try it in your blender. Anyhow, we're not really grinding a lot of things. We're going to have some choices. So there's going to be, shocker, nutritional yeast. And this is actually the one I had before, so I'm just going to put it in here. I'm going to use some parsley. I'm using some of the freeze-dried parsley from Lighthouse. You could use regular parsley that you dried, or if you have some ground parsley, you could use that. We're going to do onion and garlic powder, which is no surprise, right? A little bit of turmeric. Let's just keep moving this back. Some paprika. And you can either use ground celery seed or whole celery seeds. Now, if you're using whole celery seeds, you want to make sure to grind it really, really well. That's all I'm saying. I found some ground celery seed, but let's try it with the not ground. Oh no, I forgot to put something in my regular bouillon. It's not up to pressure yet. I didn't put my thyme in there, you guys. I just found it. So I'm going to put a couple things of thyme in there. I can hear it going, so hopefully I don't mess up my water. We'll find out if I did. Let me cancel it and make sure it's okay. So if it goes to burn, let's all know that it's just my fault. So I'm using fresh thyme in this. If you don't like thyme, don't use it. You could have made it without. You could use dried thyme. You could use rosemary. You could add garlic in there. You could do mushrooms. You could do all the things, and we'll come back to that too. I think the dry container for the Vitamix should work. You may have to make larger batches than what I'm making, but I don't see why it wouldn't. It's supposed to grind wheat and things, so it should be okay. Again, if you're unsure and you have the choice, I would go for ground celery seed versus whole celery seed. If you don't have that choice, then you don't. Oh, hey, Helene. Oh, did you ask that before I started talking about it? Okay. I know. Oh, Joanne. She said, oh, actually, here, let's see. Let's put it up. That one deserves to be put up. Caught my time in time. Excellent. And Helene was saying, would the dry container work? I gotta remember to get you guys back on screen. So this is not that crazy of a thing. Now you could also do it without grinding it if you wanted to. I'm sorry, it's kind of dark. I'm trying to work on some of the settings for this camera. So this is a small one. I'm going to do a half a cup of nutritional yeast. Actually, on the bottom, I'm going to put the celery seeds. And I'm going to use about a half a teaspoon. Let me actually get a real measurement and measure it. I think that would be helpful. Okay, half a teaspoon of celery seeds. I'm going to put a quarter teaspoon of turmeric. And that just kind of helps, that and the nutritional yeast give it that little, I don't know, kind of color that you're looking for. We're going to do a teaspoon of both onion powder and garlic powder. And if you just had dried onion pieces and dried garlic pieces, because I do have that, you could totally use that. And it would probably be about the same amount. And once you make your first batch of this, you could decide you don't want to add I didn't bring the thyme over. You don't want to add turmeric, or you don't like the way this is, and that's fine to do too. So I'm also going to need a tablespoon. So what bouillons do you guys use now? Or is there one that you prefer? Okay, let's get a 1/4 teaspoon of paprika in here. We're going to get a teaspoon of thyme. I find thyme works really well in kind of this generic bouillon for me. Let's see what we've got. We've got everything but the parsley. So we're doing a tablespoon of ground parsley. And this freeze-dried one is so pretty. I really do like it a lot. And this is just making a small amount. Typically, I would make 2 to 4 times this amount if I wanted to. And we're going to use a 1/2 cup. So 2 of these is a 1/4 cup. So we'll do 2 more. So lots of nutritional yeast in this. Okay. So the way this works is it just goes on there, twists and locks. And then, actually, I think you might be able to see it. There we go. Okay. Take a look at this, and I see a bunch more people have come on, so we'll talk about all the things we're doing. Oh, my little hands are just, but see how this ground into such a nice powder. And so I think, let's see if we can get that. There we go. You could look at it versus this. So that's one of the things that got ground up. I like to really grind this instead of just mixing it, because we've got those celery seeds, right? And now that's powdered. So I've powdered them. And when you smell it, it smells just like the little dry bouillons that you get to me. You can taste it. It tastes good. And so you can make a big jar of it all at once and just keep using it if you don't have any freezer space. Joanne, that's why I thought about you when I decided to do this bouillon. Joanne is always complaining that I have her put too many things in her freezer, and she's kind of right. Hi, Ashley. And Marilyn uses the dry container on her Vitamix to powder all of her dehydrated things. And Apple says most store-bought bouillons also have palm oil, and I don't want to support that industry. And hi, Jazzy. Hi, Jazzy Ann. And Sue says, I currently don't use bouillon as I am new to veganism and looking for recipes. Oh, this is going to change everything. So it's what I love. It's cheap, easy, and tasty, and it adds flavor to everything you put it in. So you can put it in beans when you're cooking it. You can put it in soups, stews. You can put it in stir fries. You can even put it in a scramble if you want to. If anywhere you feel like you need this extra burst of flavor, you could add this, both in this dry form that we just did, and also in the wetter form that I'm still waiting for this to come. It's my fault. I opened it when it was getting closer, so it's going to take a little bit longer. It is hot, so fingers crossed. Hi. And Ashley says she can attest it's good in a scramble. And so, Sue, one of the things that if you're transitioning to veganism or plant-based eating, a lot of times people go, okay, now I have brown rice and beans and some veggies. Ta-da! Right? And we forget that things like garlic powder or chili powder, Italian seasoning blend, all the different spices that are in your cabinet still from when you cooked other things can be reused. Also, I would really suggest that you look at, if you have an Instant Pot, look at my plant-based cauliflower queso. You can do it with or without the cashews, depending on what plant or allergies you might have, but it looks a lot like Velveeta. And don't be intimidated. It does ask for a lot of weird dried chili powders. Skip it. Use regular chili, chili spice, chili for the stew spice, and put it in there, and that's good enough. Okay? So then if you make rice and beans and vegetables, you can cover it in a nice kind of queso sauce or salsa. Or you can, cook the beans with some of this bouillon to give it a little bit extra flavor in the broth. So I find one of the things that really kind of trips people up sometimes when they are going plant-based is they are being too pristine about flavor. Because in the other food world, it's like sugar, salt, and oil is what everything is about, right? It's like, oh my God, fry it in duck fat, add this seasoning salt to it, add this thing and that. But flavors can come from herbs and spices, and that's separate from all of that. Completely separate. Oh, it's so close. Okay, great. I'm glad that helps. And you do have an Instant Pot. So Sue, I also would recommend, and I did this so wherever you're watching, because this is broadcasting on YouTube, different Facebook pages and different Facebook groups, is I did an ancho chili refried beans. There's a couple of different kinds of Instant Pot refried beans or not fried beans on plant-based Instant Pot. And so that's a really good way to start too. So again, think about the flavors. Chef AJ talks a lot about flavored balsamics. That's another good way to go, oh, yes, ha. And Joanne says the cheese sauce is fantastic over tomato soup. Really? I've never tried it with tomato soup, but you can even make it thicker. And we made, last month in our vegan cheese class, we made some oil-free vegan cheese slices. And you can make little grilled cheese sandwiches with those, which is kind of cool too. Yep, California balsamic is a very popular one, and they have a teriyaki balsamic for those of you who can't have soy or salt. So a lot of people who do Chef AJ's program will use that in stir fries. It's more intense than a soy sauce, so if you don't use it one for one in a recipe that I might have, but use it as a seasoning, kind of like you used to use salt. If that makes sense. Because if you put a half a cup of that vinegar in a stir fry, that's all you're going to taste, and it's going to be too strong. Heather, you're coming from a platform. I went in and I actually changed and updated all the Facebook pages. So what you can do is, if you're getting a 404 error, somehow on the program that I put this in, it added some weird characters. I've gone in individually and updated them, so you might just need to refresh the page. But you can go to plantbasedinstantpot.com, and there's like a little search at the top, and there's a magnifying glass down the side. Click either one of those and put in bullion, and you'll find it super easy. So I promise you that. Okay, awesome. So, okay, some people came, some people go. It could be new people. So one of the things I'm going to read out from, this was the recipe from Gluten-Free Vegan Cooking in Your Instant Pot. And it's for the instant dry bouillon. So it's not really an Instant Pot recipe, but I have a staples chapter in every single book that I've done. because I think it's important. I made the wet bouillon for my very first book, The Vegan Slow Cooker, because I was using Better Than Bouillon, and I was going to spend half my advance on bouillon. So I was like, I got to figure this out fast. And you could also, okay, one thing at a time, Kathy, one thing at a time. Dry bouillon. Go to dry bouillon. Okay, so this recipe is not on the web. All I did is take all the ingredients that I'm talking to you about and I put them in a spice grinder and ground them. We've gone over, you could put it in a Vitamix dry container. When you're working with things this small, you can put it in almost any blender. The only caveat I said is because you can use ground celery seed or celery seeds, and the seeds are so tiny, you really want to make sure that these get ground. So if you're working with something that's less powerful, I would try grinding the celery seed first, then adding the rest of the things, because you don't want it just like a celery seed popping up at you. And the reason I like to grind it fine into such a powder like this is it helps it really incorporate and spread out through your soup or stew very easy. So you're not getting a patch of celery seeds, a patch of garlic, a patch of whatever. So now in the blending of it, we're kind of evening out what some of those flavors are, and it will distribute better in anything that you're using it in. So, and Patricia said, how about putting the celery seed in a mortar or pestle? And you could do that. I am not good at that, evidently. I've done it before when I've had to with some whole spices, and it could just be that I'm bad at it, but it never gets to a powder for me. So if it gets to a powder for you, I would totally do it. And I've done it with other things, and that is obviously the original way to grind spices. And Joanne says, my husband is always pouring it on his soup instead of trying to melt vegan cheese over it. I love that. And she's talking about the cauliflower queso that you can get on plantbasedinstantpot.com. Awesome. Okay, great. Any other questions? Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. And Deborah said if she's being lazy, she uses Better Than Bouillon paste. And the Better Than Bouillon tastes really good. It has some ingredients in it a lot of you are avoiding. B, it's just gotten really expensive. A lot of staples, especially a lot of vegan staples, have gotten too expensive over the pandemic to me to really matter. And so Apple uses McCormick veg-based bouillons and saying it's also expensive. And Helen says she hasn't found a vegan bouillon to use. Gina, Better Than Bouillon. Karen, Better Than Bouillon. Okay, awesome. Okay, so pen and paper to the ready. Everybody, if you want to write this down, it's pretty easy. So all I put in this one container, I put everything in. Again, remember, if you don't have celery seed, ground is always fine, because depending on what's going on, it could be easier anyhow. We're going to do a half a cup of nutritional yeast, 1 tablespoon of dried parsley. I use this freeze-dried parsley, which is real pretty. And if you didn't want to grind it up as fine, it does make it look kind of nice. You get some parsley floating around in your soups and stuff. But again, I'm a flavor gal. And then we're going to do a teaspoon of onion powder, a teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of celery seeds, a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric, and a 1/4 teaspoon of paprika. Joanne, I use Kathy's bouillon. Absolutely. Jazzy, I can't put in a link for the queso, but if one of our nice viewers could, just because I'm kind of doing all this other stuff and I'd have to like ignore you all for a while. But literally, if you go to plantbasedinstantpot.com, just in the search bar that's above or to the side, the little magnifying glass, type queso. It will pull it up for you. It's so easy to search my sites. I have a special thing up there. So again, just one more time, the instant dry vegetable bouillon is a 1/2 cup of nutritional yeast, 1 tablespoon parsley, dried. You do want to make sure it's dried. It can be dehydrated by your own hand. Or when I get the extra herbs, I actually just let them dry on, I don't do it as cool as like to put it on the window sills. It's like hanging out somewhere drying though. A teaspoon of onion powder, a teaspoon of garlic powder. Those could be granulated, those could be dehydrated pieces of garlic and onion. They could be of any kind of form, but you do want this dry, because if not, and you live in a moist, humid climate like I do, it's gonna get moldy. And you can also, if you take any kind of vitamin or pill, and you know the little things that come in those vitamin and pill bottles, they keep them dry. I save those and I pop those in things like my bouillon when I make tomato powder or chili powder from scratch. Okay, and then 1/2 teaspoon of celery seeds or ground celery seed. Yeah, got to get that extra seed. Not just ground celery, but ground celery seed. 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric and 1/4 teaspoon of paprika. Why? Why do you not put salt in this, Kathy? To make it salt-free. And to me, one of the biggest downsides for me personally of using Better Than Bouillon is that it's really salty. So if I wanted to up the flavor, it could oversalt. So almost all of my seasoning blends and things like this, I don't put salt in, and I tend to put salt in at the end. So I can see how the tomato I bought today affected the soup, right? How any other salty element might have changed things. Okay, great. Does somebody? Okay, and someone uses the low sodium garden veggie from Edward and Son. And Deborah, you got it? I think. Okay. If somebody needs me to repeat it again later, just let me know. Okay, great. Awesome, and I think Apple gave Jazzy the link, and thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, guys, we've got like 2 more minutes before we can release the pressure on this, and it's going to take just a few minutes. So while I'm not going to make it right now, I'm just going to sit this down here. Let's talk a little bit about a salt-free seasoning. So all my blends are what they are. So a lot of people don't use salt or want to cut down on how much salt they're using. And that's all perfect. Oh, Mia's here. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like my my cooking demos, because we're doing a lot of them. Now at some point, there are going to be a couple of days I'm going to do some pre-recorded things. So just to warn you. And also, I will not be going live just like I am now tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm teaching a class, so we're doing holiday appetizers. And wherever you see all the links and things, I've also put the information for the class, links to buy it. Also, there's 2 other things you should know. One is that I've been doing some December discounts for people who are lost their jobs or are underemployed, because it's been a tough year. So you can pay, it's $35 for one class. You could get the bundle, which includes the class I did last week, which is an air fryer fun class, which was pretty fun, I think, for $60, or use one of these codes. And the other option is to join Kathy's Cooking Club for $50 a month, and you always get both classes. They're $25 each, and you auto-renew. But you have the control of when you cancel. So in your platform, you get to go and cancel. So it's not one of those things you sign up for and you have to email me and maybe I do it in time, maybe I don't do it in time, right? So know that too. And if you guys have more questions about that, I'm happy to help. But there's codes to pay $50. There's codes to pay $25 or $10 depending on what you can afford. If you can afford more, I appreciate very much you paying more. And if you can't afford more, pay $10. And if you can't pay $10, I still have a couple of scholarship positions open. So email me at Kathy Hester, KathyHester @gmail.com with the subject scholarship for class. And you need to do it before tomorrow at 10 o'clock because around then I'm already prepping for the 11 o'clock class. So I won't see it. It doesn't mean if I still have a space, I'll retroactively add you and you can watch the recordings. But please do that. And Jackie says, classes are always fun, informative, and drool-worthy. And what we're making, actually I can just talk about this while I'm this is going to take a long time to release this. So, and this has one that's a button. Let me show you this for some of you who maybe haven't seen this before. There we go. So with this, I don't have anything around here. I push this and I can push it just a little, right? The same way as I would normally flip that. Or I can push it all the way down. But while I'm talking, I'm just going to let a little bit of the steam out. Because see, there is some water or moisture that comes out with that. So if I do it slow, it's less stressful for all of us. It's better for my camera. And I have it, that's also why I moved it away just ever so slightly. Oh, you're so welcome. Oh, it's B-Love. I love my B-Love women. They are so sweet, you guys. Because you know I'm doing the Vlogmas, and that's how I got to know them better. I did see them on my favorite video information gal, Diana Gladney. So if you guys are interested in video equipment and stuff, I highly, highly recommend her channel. Plus, she's just hilarious, and I find her delightful. But I had heard you guys, the B-Love people on there asking a couple of questions. But you all know that I just love it when we're all being kind to one another and spreading positive energy because it's been a tough year for a lot of people. And I think that we just have to do the best we can, but I'm having to take myself too. So when I say this to you guys, realize that I'm saying it to me too. Like I have been running around like a crazy person this week, doing way too many things. And so in the back of my mind, I'm like, Sunday is the magic day that I'm going to have some self-care and just lay around and just take some time off. And we've got to remember, if we keep building everything up, you know, politics, you know, the pandemic, all these things kind of add this extra layer on top of our already sometimes stressful lives. And so if you see something that's funny, that makes you happy, makes you smile, do more of that. For me, I might be watching Lifetime and Hallmark holiday movies. I don't usually admit those things, but yeah, there's some good ones. There's some not good ones too, I tell you. But sometimes you just need a little mind candy. Oh, and someone said, where do I find the Instant Pot cookbooks? You can get them on Amazon. So, and in fact, if you go around somewhere, wherever it is, I have the link for the Ultimate Vegan Cookbook for your Instant Pot there. And then once you're in Amazon, if you click my name, because I have 10 cookbooks, so, and they're all traditionally published, except for the Halloween cookbook. And so from there, you can find all the books that I do, but I have 2 Instant Pot cookbooks. And don't let the gluten-free on this one turn you off. I would have done the same cookbook if it was not gluten-free. It just means I'm using gluten-free baking mix first and saying you can substitute whole wheat flour. Whereas in the other book I say whole wheat flour, or you could substitute gluten-free baking mix. So it's not like it's, ew, everything's gluten-free and nasty. It's not, I promise you. Come on. It's gonna take as long to get this. So I have this pressed down so it's doing it by itself, but that little hook, I can catch that with my thumb and I can make it stop if it starts sputtering too much for me, which is why I'm being attentive. Awesome, you guys. So does anybody have any other questions too while we're waiting on the pressure to release? Because I appreciate all of you and I want you to know that I'm here for you. So those of you that maybe came in late, what's in the Instant Pot is what we're going to make our homemade bouillon. So know this homemade bouillon is not as strong as Better Than Bouillon, where you might use 2 teaspoons for a whole pot of soup. What I usually do is after we blend this and everything, I put it in ice cube trays. A typical ice cube is about 2 tablespoons. I will use 2 of those cubes for what I would use a normal serving of. Okay, let's get that way and I'll let you see it, for a normal serving of bouillon. Okay, so everything's in here. Set this over here. You can, and be careful, I have kind of like hot pads on the end of my fingers. So I'm just scraping the thyme leaves off. This one's hotter. Ow. It's not that hot though. But you should use some sort of utensil. I have cook's hands, which means I burn myself over and over until I don't need to use things like that anymore. It's called perhaps not being a smart person sometimes too. Okay, and I'm seeing another question. So let me see what this is. Could you use a coffee grinder for celery seed? Absolutely you could. And I did not give that spiel, did I? So one of the things you can do if you have a coffee grinder is run white or brown rice through it. White rice seems to absorb more of the aroma. So if you have it, great. If not, brown rice, use what you got. And that will get some of that coffee flavor so it won't taste as much like coffee. Do this or grind your other things, then run some more rice through it. It is not 100% guaranteed sort of thing, and you will get a little bit of overlap sometimes. But if you used to drink coffee and you don't drink coffee anymore, it's awesome. It's awesome you just use it for that. And Sherry's asking me if I've heard any reviews about the Corsica toaster oven air fryer. I have not. There's so many different ones now that it's hard to keep up with all the individual ones. However, I would kind of trust Amazon on some of that and just look and see what other people are saying. I usually, when I'm looking at an Amazon review, I throw out the top one and the bottom one. You know, because, or a portion of that. If there's 5 really bad reviews out of 100, it could be that those people were just grumpy. So we know who they were, right? Let me get a spatula. So we're going to carefully transfer this over to our blender. And I'm trying to remember, I'm going to put in a cup of nutritional yeast is what I'm going to do, because we're making a big portion of this. Yeah, absolutely, Patricia, or get a coffee grinder. And I do recommend, once things are starting to close down where I am, when they open up again, thrift stores are the perfect place to find that. And you could get a bunch of rice, grind all the coffee oils and get all that stuff out, and then be ready to have it as a spice grinder. Oh, that's a good point, Joanne. Yes, and by white rice, I mean dry white rice, not cooked white rice, because then you will no longer have a coffee grinder because that's not going to work. And what about using tomato powder? Do you mean in the dry bouillon, Sandra? You could totally put mushroom powder in there. You could put tomato powder in there. You could make this real specific. So we could have added rosemary. We could have added Italian spices. We could have added some chilies and things like that and made it kind of Latin American. We could do all different kinds of things. So I'm showing you the base models for all intents and purposes. So, yeah. Okay. So this you should do as carefully as you can. Yes, we know you don't like that. The Instant Pot does not like to be ignored. So I'm going to pour most of the water in there and then carefully clunk out the rest. Sort of carefully. Ugh. And see how there's a lot more than a quarter cup of or a half a cup of liquid in there now, because as the veggies cook down, and this is about all my bigger blender can hold for this. So sometimes, or if I had a smaller blender, what I just would do is to blend this in batches, and that's fine too. Let's see if I can get that over a little bit. Okay, so then we're just gonna, and see how the liquid is like up to here. So there's a good amount of it. Now I'm going to go ahead and just take the nutritional yeast straight from my bag. I buy the Frontier Co-op a pound at a time. I know Chef AJ prefers a different blend or a different brand, and if you guys know that and want to put that up, I'm happy to have that shared. If you wanted to use salt, you could add salt now. So that's a quarter cup, so I'm going to put 4 of these in there. And sometimes if you end up using more carrots, then it might be more orange. If you use more of something else, and I don't really worry about it. The reason there's a recipe is because it was in a cookbook. But it's one of those things, and we've talked about that a lot the past 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks, is that it's not so much the exact of what this is. That, oh my God, I only have 3/4 cup of nutritional yeast, I can't make this. Or, you know what, if that was in a jar and there was a tablespoon, that tablespoon would go in here. So sometimes close enough is okay. And Joanne says she likes to use tomato powder when she uses it as a beef bouillon substitute, and that's awesome. And I'm just going to blend it up. And what I was looking for is there was like a little patch of nutritional yeast kind of bonded there. And I just wanted to take a look at it, make sure it got encompassed. A lot of times I will stop and scrape things down, but I just didn't need to. Aha, and Apple says, where am I getting my nooch? Typically, I often get it on Amazon. Because then I like to just order the big pounds bags at a time. But I actually, and see, this is just the bouillon. So see, it's not as thick and set. It will get a little thicker once it cools down and it's in the fridge. And I would suggest that you cool it down before you put it in your ice cube trays. And so we'll talk about that in a minute. So so I was going to the Magic Amazon closeout store, which is called Bin City Bargains in Greensboro. So because it's so big and it's in a warehouse, we were masking up and going in there when things were not quite as, the numbers weren't quite as high as they are now, so we haven't been going. But we were finding a lot of vegan food, and actually we feel a lot like vegan preppers. So each day would be a different price. So I think it was $7 a day. No, it was $5 a day. And I found 4 bags of the nutritional yeast that I use. And I got another nutritional yeast another time for like $3. So some of the stuff that I use right now, I got during that time. Like I got some really great balsamic vinegar. We got a case of Amy's chili for $8. So we got some really cool stuff. I got some spices and things. Last we went, which was a while ago, probably more than a month ago, they weren't having as much food. However, my normal go-to is to just go on Amazon and get it. But you probably could get it on Thrive. You probably could get it straight from Frontier Herbs. But that's if you're okay with those. So I've ordered tomato powder, other spices. I've gotten used to going to the Indian market to get my spices. And so a lot of times I'll get something from Frontier Herbs too. Like you can get a pound of tomato powder or coriander seeds or things like that. All the bulk bins that you see, at least in the US, are typically filled with Frontier Herbs. Like Sprouts uses them, Whole Foods used to use them. Most local co-ops that I've been to use Frontier Herbs. Okay. And Joanne says she loves Frontier but loves the small flake variety. And I'm like, whatever is in the bin that's in date works good for me. I used the Hoosier Farms. I had used some of those and that went pretty quickly. They were really big flakes, but I like them a lot. Yeah, and Gina's saying Chef AJ likes unfortified nooch, which doesn't have any B vitamins or anything like that added into it. And so Gina's saying it is Well Your World. And I know that there's one that she likes and I always forget it. And it's not that I don't like that one. I'm just kind of, any nooch is good nooch to me so far. Do you know what I mean? Okay. So she's saying, Well Your World has an unfortified brand and Chef AJ uses the Sorry brand of unfortified. And I think that's all great. And there's nothing wrong with having one that you really, really like. And Sherry says it is also Sorry. So that's awesome. So what we did well, there was very lot of talking. And I did mess up my Instant Pot from coming all the way up to pressure faster. But we made, like, this is enough bouillon to last a long time. So what I do is I keep how much I'm going to use in less than a week, like 5 to 6 days. You can stretch it to 7 if everything's been really fresh, but it's not the best thing to do because often then I will forget about it and I have to throw it out. So I encourage you highly to maybe keep, if you know you're going to make 4 soups in the next 4 days, keep a couple of cups of it out. You'll probably use at least 1/4 of a cup for a regular soup recipe that you might use 2 teaspoons to a tablespoon of another brand of bouillon because it's not as concentrated, but it's still delicious. And then with the rest, I'm going to pour it into ice cube trays. And in a normal average ice cube tray, it's about 2 tablespoons per little ice cube. And then I'll just put 2 ice cubes in anything. And those last so long. Like, I've never gotten any that I've thrown out. If it has a little freezer burn on it, I'm okay with it if you're throwing it in a soup. And I will tell you right now, I'm the person that will throw freezer burned green beans into that soup too. So if that is not you and you feel really offended, yours may not last as long as mine, but I've never had it go bad in the freezer. In the fridge, there's nothing but vegetables in here. There's no salt, there's no vinegar, there's no kind of even natural preservatives in here. So obviously there's no artificial ones, but there's not, coffee has acid, vinegars have acid, salt helps, sugar helps. None of that's in here, which is what we want. So we have to act accordingly and take a little better care of going ahead and getting it frozen. Okay? Do you guys have any other questions? So again, The wet bouillon is in the Ultimate Vegan Cookbook for your Instant Pot. It's also on Plant-Based Instant Pot. You can just search for bouillon at the top or to the side. The dry bouillon recipe is in Gluten-Free Vegan Cooking in your Instant Pot. You can get both these books and any of my other books on Amazon. You can also order them from your local independent bookstore as well. So they're published by Page Street, who uses Macmillan as a distribution, so you can get them at Barnes & Noble. You just may have to order them because they're not stocking books like they used to, or order them from Amazon, or you can, I can't remember what it is right now. Is it Indie something is actually an online independent bookstore that you can get things from too. So they're not in any like special hidden place. And Joanne says she was really surprised how tasty and cheap the bouillon is. And it really is. It's kind of funny because there's just, it's onions, carrots, celery, some thyme to cook for 10 minutes in your Instant Pot with half a cup of water, at least in a 6-quart, possibly more water in an 8-quart. Whatever you need for it to come up to pressure, cook for 10 minutes, release the pressure as you will. We could have released the pressure naturally, and you could have just come back. It doesn't matter if it keeps cooking, because we're just going to puree it anyhow. Then I pureed it with a cup of nutritional yeast. And in the bouillon itself, how I could do all the different things is if I didn't have celery, I'd put celery seeds in there, right? If I didn't have any fresh thyme, I could put dried thyme. If I don't want to put any herbs, I don't have to put any herbs. I could put rosemary, marjoram, cilantro. I could have put also ancho chilies and cilantro. I made a whole different thing that could have been used as a sauce. But the onions provide volume and flavor. The carrots provide some color, volume, and flavor. The celery, I think, is mostly for the flavor. There's some volume there too. But it just, I wish you could smell it, because it does smell just like you want it to smell when you put a bouillon into your soup or stew. Oh, that's right. Thank you, Joanne. And I'm not sure what books are at virtualvegfest.com right now, but I'm pretty sure, I know we have 3 or 4, because the ones that are on Virtual Veg Fest are sitting at my house. And so if you order through virtualvegfest.com, I can sign the book for you and we will mail it off to you. So I would be thrilled if you wanted to order a book from there. I'm just not sure. I guess, nah, you guys have been on here long enough. I'm not going to, you go over there, look up Kathy Hester, you'll find the books that I have. I know we ran out of one recently. But there's lots of outrageous oatmeals. I know we still have a lot of those because when they went out of print, I bought a lot of them. So if you have any questions about the books over there or something, just tag me wherever you are and I'll come and try and answer them. So again, okay, and Sue says this has been so helpful. Thank you so much. We'll have to rewatch. Okay, and that's the thing about these, is they're up for you to rewatch all the time, and probably wherever you're watching, if it's YouTube, Facebook page, or a Facebook group, if you keep scrolling, there's a lot of things to see if you haven't seen any. And I know it can be a big help to see somebody else do something step by step. And Marilyn said she's going to try to make the broth and try to dehydrate it, dehydrating the pressure cooker one. I would love to see that for sure. And Jackie says cilantro, anchos, onions, peppers, tomatoes, and garlic would be sofrito. Okay, so now I'm just making up things, people. You're used to it though, aren't you? And Helene put the link in, virtualvegfest.com, because I would love to sign a book to you. And I think there's some notes, and you can tell me what you want me to sign if you want to get it as a gift, because those make great gifts. And I'm pretty sure you could buy it from one place and have us send it to somebody. But if you want to get it signed something special, not to you, you can just email me, again, at kathyhester@gmail.com. And Joanne says the oat book is one of her favorites. It's one of my favorites too. Oh, good. Helene says there's the vegan slow cooker and the oat book. So we're out of the others. Oh, and Apple loves the oat book too. Yeah, the oat book is really fun. And I'm hoping at some point to do a little more out of it and kind of maybe do something with that, because all of that reverts to me, which is lovely. Oh, and vegan cooking in the air fryer is in Virtual Veg Fest, so that's awesome. You guys are funny. Yeah, Marilyn is the dehydrator queen. There is no doubt. I always am like, oh, Marilyn, yay you. Oh, there is gluten-free vegan cooking in the Instant Pot. Helene, if you could make just a little list. Again, I'm so sorry. I know I'm being bossy now. So people could see it all in one comment instead of looking through. Maybe they'll be more likely. Helene runs virtualvegfest.com. So she takes care of all the magic that makes the book show up and all the things happen. And then Cheryl schleps it off to the post office for you. And Joanne says the same thing about Marilyn's going to try to dehydrate this, because I would be very curious. Because for me, you could also, in this dry bouillon, if you had tomato powder, carrot powder, onion, we already put some onion powder basically in there. We put celery flavor in there. But you could use other vegetable powders that you might have for sure. Okay. And Jackie says, I inspired her to try this. This is so free to freeze. I know, I need to try that. I've got a bunch of cilantro getting ready for tomorrow's class, because tomorrow, holiday appetizers. And again, wherever you're watching, all the information about coming to the holiday appetizer class, and it's a paid class, so it's not free like this is. But if you want to take one class, it's $35. You can get the December bundle for $60. And see the class that we've had. And because of the COVID pandemic stuff, and I know people are underemployed and unemployed, you are welcome to use one of the codes to pay either $50, $25, or $10 to get those two classes, because I'd rather you attend at a level that you can afford. And like I said, if you can afford more, wonderful, that helps me. If you can't, I would rather see your smiling face, do something fun and positive. And a lot of the people who are in right now are in the classes. And so it's a delightful place to be. And I have a few scholarship scholarship slots available. So you can email me at kathyhester@gmail.com. But do know, if you email me 10 a.m. or after tomorrow, you're not going to be able to attend the live class. Just know that, because if I can get you in, I will, but chances are I'm usually prepping things that first hour and I can't get to all the email. And so these are the ones that are on Virtual Veg Fest. Outrageous Oats, gluten-free cooking in your Instant Pot, which is this one. And that would be a great place to get this one, in fact. The revised vegan slow cooker, so that's the one I was telling you that you should get the other day, and vegan cooking in your air fryer. Helene says she loves the Bossy Kathy. I'm like, you just need to hang around me more. I like to give you all the options, but if you don't make a choice, I will make it for you. That is usually, that in my household, that's how it works. And Jackie's excited for tomorrow's class. So tomorrow we're going to be making samosa chaat. And actually, that's one thing I still have to do. I've got to try gluten-free. I haven't made the samosa wrappers gluten-free yet, so I'm going to use some gluten-free flour tonight and test that out. They were tested out a bazillion times with wheat flour, and they work great. We're going to make coconut tofu bites with a Thai chili sauce. We're going to make a spinach artichoke dip. And we are going to make something that's, I thought if you're having a holiday appetizer party, you need a little sweet something. So we're going to make, you can either make little brownie bites, or you can make a whole pan of brownies. We're going to make teff brownies, which are my absolute favorites and Cheryl's favorites. And Sandra said she recently placed a large order with Vitacost. And Vitacost, I have gotten some things before too because it tends to be cheaper. It's not as inexpensive as the warehouse, but not too bad. Found a lot of things I can't get locally. That's awesome. And we all applaud that. Okay, so again, come to my class tomorrow. I'd love to have you there. It's a holiday appetizer party. With a little teff brownie thrown in. And you can make everything in general can be made SOS free. The teff brownies, you can do some alternatives, and I will give alternatives for those. But as written, that one does have oil, but you could use applesauce. So I will give you all these options. So rest assured. Now, there are some flours being used. We're using teff flour. I'm going to use a gluten-free blend, or perhaps a whole wheat blend, but I'm expecting the gluten-free blend to work. So there will be flours in the class. But we could also talk about some alternative ways, because you could really use the inside of the samosas and be pretty happy too. So there's some different things we can do. Gina, you were watching on YouTube, so when this kind of comes up where it says something like blah, blah, blah under my name, and it'll be like a little arrow that says click more. If you click there, it'll open up and it's going to be like this long. And that's where you can find the codes. If you can't find, I don't know how YouTube works when I'm live. There's a little in-between time, lag time between me going live, I think, and when you can see it everywhere. But definitely look and see if, so like there, right now you should be seeing a chat to one side, and on the opposite side, my name, and click that under my name, see more, hopefully it says. And Gina says, thank you so much for offering codes. Thank you, I appreciate it. Well, it's hard, and I've been very, very poor before. I used to be a musician, so I remember $20 was a lot of money. So I do understand, and this is an unprecedented year, and we all have to stick together, right? We just really have to. And Jackie says, spinach artichoke dip. And I'm trying to decide if I'm just going to make it in the pan, which is what I'm going for, and say you could bake it later. I'm making a lot of decisions tonight. It's going to be exciting. Oh, good. Apple says the links are there. Thank you for your generous support at this time. Absolutely. Absolutely. We're all in this together, and that's how we're going to get out of this together. So I want to support you guys in learning what you can learn to especially if you're having some money issues, knowing how to make bullion instead of buying it, that saves a chunk of money. Knowing how to do some of these other things. So I want you to help save you money and make things a little bit easier so you can still eat really healthy and fresh and yummy, but not overspend on it. Okay, great. So everybody's finding that. And Gina said, I got you a samosa. I know. I'm like, I actually haven't had a samosa in 2 years. And samosa chaat was my favorite thing in the world. So, because samosa chaat means we're going to also make some chole, which is just like some spiced chickpeas. So like with a samosa chaat, you cut that warm samosa in half, and you can put the chole and then tamarind sauce and mint cilantro chutney, a little vegan yogurt, all the yummy, yummy, yummy things. Okay, awesome. Oh, thank you so much. And Be Live, thank you so much for Be Love. I'm sorry, I'm calling you a program called Be Live, and I apologize from the bottom of my heart for that. I can tell we've just gone past 5 o'clock because my brain is like a soft sponge now, a soft, mushy sponge. But Be Love, we always appreciate seeing your beautiful, beautiful faces in here. Yeah, I'm going to hook you up. That's what I've got to say. We're going to eat good tomorrow. Okay? Again, if you have some questions, you get lost, you're not quite sure what to do, you can always email me, kathyhester@gmail.com. Watch some other videos. Also, some of those codes are on other lives that I've done the past 2 weeks. Okay? You guys are wonderful, and hopefully I'll see some of you guys in the morning. Those of you who don't attend class, I will not be doing a live on Saturday. I fell asleep by accident last Saturday, but I'm counting it as my Vlogmas day, okay? Have a wonderful, wonderful night. Make some bouillon. Tell me how it is. Post about it in Vegan Recipes, Cooking with Kathy Hester, the private Facebook group that's free. So if you're having a rough 2020, you have no excuse not to go in there. A lot of these wonderful people are there. I know. Yeah, Joanne's like, wow, you're dark already. I know. It like went from light to dark, so you got to see my sunset. Okay, lovelies. You all have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And I will see you guys, some of you tomorrow. I'll see the rest of you on Sunday. Maybe I'll see all of you tomorrow.